Hey guys, Christina here, and today I'm going to continue talking about some tips and tricks that we've kind of learned over the years to live frugally and to live debt-free. Now, if you missed the first part, I'll link it up above. You can go watch it. The basic summary is my husband and I got married in university. We both had one semester left, our practicums to get our degrees, and things kind of fell apart. My husband had an immigration issue when we came back from the US to Canada, and he had to wait to do his practicum, so he had to withdraw. I was pregnant with our first child, and I got really sick. I landed in the hospital, and so I ended up having to withdraw as well. So we found ourselves not finished school. My husband couldn't work in the country. We had some medical costs because I didn't have full medical yet. We were still paying medical bills when we were in the US as well. We had an apartment that we had a year lease on. We had to pay for. We also had to pay the student loans, the scholarships. The scholarships we got that semester back because we had withdrawn, and then my student loan was gonna come due around the same time my son was born. So we found ourselves in a really difficult situation, and basically we had no income. Now, if you did watch the first part, you know that I had been able to save most of my student loan, and so we had a chunk of change in the bank. And that was totally our saving grace because we had immigration fees to pay that was thousands of dollars, and it kind of helped us through the next big chunk of time. But I kind of want to share some things we did and hopefully give you some advice and some encouragement if you find yourself in the same situation with no or very little income. So first, as always, you have to look at your expenses, right? We had our apartment, which yes, we had a lease on, but it did cover our water, our heat, and our electricity all within the rent, so that was great. We just had to take care of things like food and transportation costs and like the coins for our laundry, because it was coin laundry, and some of the medical things. Now, because I was sponsoring my husband for permanent residency, I was not eligible for any social benefit programs, meaning I couldn't apply for welfare or anything like that. I had been working, but I was working in the US, and so I wasn't eligible for anything through income, EI, unemployment insurance, or anything like that. So we were truly kind of on our own and had to figure this out. So the very first thing I did, any social worker will tell you this, get down to business and find out what programs you are eligible for, because there's going to be something. I guarantee you that. In my experience working in the last few years and previously connecting to resources, is there's always something that you can do or connect with that's going to help you. So I found a program, and I can't remember the name of it now. We have one here in Alberta called Best Beginnings, so similar to that. And it allowed me to go every week to this community center where for about 2 hours they had a public health nurse come, and she did a prenatal class, but they had other people there who made a healthy meal for all of the moms, or moms who just had babies, right, or pregnant. And they provided bus tickets. They provided fresh fruits and vegetables like twice a month, I think it was. They got donations of like baby clothing in, and so they would share that amongst the women. And so I got some baby clothing. I got a baby carrier, which it was, one of the straps was broken and it was super old, but we loved that baby carrier. And kind of introduced us to baby wearing as well. Just looking at my notes here. It made such a difference. You know, those bus tickets they would give, one of the things was we couldn't afford even a bus pass for the month. We could only afford a certain amount of bus tickets every month. And so those were like gold to me. I remember walking 30, 40 minutes each way to my doctor's appointment, or walking 25 minutes to church, or walking, 35 minutes from here, from this program home, in the hot summer. Those were so important to me. And we just had to do what we had to do, right? Because there was the public health nurse there. Her name was Valerie. She's a wonderful, wonderful woman. She helped connect me with the medical stuff that I needed, because I was taking anticoagulants, which are blood thinners, and it's injection. So I didn't just need the medication, which was crazy expensive. I needed the wipes, the alcohol wipes. I needed the needles. I needed the Sharpie syringe thing. And she helped me access all of that until my medical fully kicked in and I was able to get some benefits covered that way. So finding that program was such a blessing in our life. I might get emotional here. It made a huge difference when times were so tough. And I so appreciate programs like that are available. I'm gonna get emotional. There you go. So the second thing, whenever you find yourself in a difficult situation, you have to look at is, can you increase or create income? So once that happened, once my nausea and my medical issues calmed down a bit, I started to look for work. And honestly, I didn't have a lot of success. I mean, I was 6 months pregnant at least by then. But I did end up signing on with a temp agency, and I was able to do 2 or 3 jobs, maybe 4, and it was just a little bit of money, but that little bit of money meant so much to us. To be able to go to the grocery store, to buy some more bus tickets. So finding absolutely anything you can do to help is so important. My husband was not able to work, like I said, but he's not the kind of person to just sit around, and so he volunteered. He found organizations to volunteer with, and actually one that he originally volunteered with, they asked him to come and work at a summer camp. I think it was a week, 2 different weeks, and they actually offered him a honorarium or a stipend. And that money was so important to us. I was so grateful. But that just came by through him volunteering, that opportunity came up. And that was a little bit of money we could pull some income. He also weeded gardens, washed windows, any kind of little things he could find that he could earn a little bit of money or he could trade for something. So thinking outside the box and just trying to come up with something, even if it's $10 that can help you. And I'll share later on some more ideas and other videos. Our family recently, we took on a paper route, and it was between $60 to $70-ish a month, but that's still $60 to $70 a month. So you kind of have to find ways to increase your income, and those are some of the things we did. Then you have to get really creative. So Free Cycle, I don't know if it's as big now, but at that time it was quite large, and we went on and we just, anything we could find that was kind of close enough that we could pick up. My mom lived in the same city, but the other side of the city, and she did have a vehicle. She would sometimes give us a ride or lend us to pick stuff up. So we got a change table through Free Cycle that we used, I think, until our 3rd child, and it was in great condition. It just, the people didn't need it anymore. We got baby clothes, pregnancy clothes, quite a few things through Free Cycle. We also had to get really creative with activities, sitting home all the time. I mean, I was sick a lot, but still, sitting home all the time is not fun. So having people over to share a potluck dinner, or going to the park, or finding free events around town kind of kept us from getting too sad, because we were living a pretty simple life. When we moved into our apartment, we had an air mattress, and we had a lamp and a 14-inch little black and white rabbit ear TV my mom had lent me. That's all we had. That's it. We eventually ended up getting a little Sterilite drawer thing for our clothes. We had somewhere to put a few clothes, but we really had very little. Friends were amazing. Someone we knew gave us a table. Someone else gave us a couch. I remember someone who's known me quite a long time asking what we needed, and I told her we needed a vacuum, something so simple, because we had carpet in our apartment, but we couldn't go to garage sales or haul it back. We just had no way to do that. And so I said, can you just look for us? And sure enough, she found one at a garage sale for us, and I was so grateful. Sometimes it's amazing the simple things you gain gratitude for when you don't have a lot. Another friend who's known me since I was little, wonderful woman, she made a play mat for my son, like a tummy time mat that I still have. I kept for him and my children have used. That was so special and meaningful to me. And again, just getting those things that we needed through our support system and through friends. We also went to the Twins Club sale. I'm not sure if it's international or just kind of in North America, but once or twice a year they have a sale where they sell all their baby stuff and you can just go and buy it. And so we actually made a point to go to one and pick up the last few things that we needed, but we always bought secondhand. There was no buying new at that time. And then other things, my husband, one day he went to take the trash out and he came back in and he had like an entertainment center, like a simple one, and someone had just left it by the trash and he dragged it in from outside in the parking lot and we had an entertainment unit. It worked. Another person was giving away a dresser, but the drawers were broken and we weren't able to fix it. So my husband actually took it apart and reworked the wood, and he made a coffee table and a desk for us. And it's so funny because I remember someone coming over once and they were like, "Oh, you need a new coffee table. This is horrible." But I was like, "No, like my husband made this, like, and it didn't cost us anything." He's so smart. So you gotta get creative. So creative for sure. We also got given a crib. One of my friends said, "Hey, my other friend has this crib she never uses. Do you want it?" And I was like, "Yes, please." And you know, that crib we ended up using for all 5 of our children. It was such a blessing to get that, and all my children slept in that crib. It was wonderful. So the other part of it too, that's maybe a little harder, is sometimes you have to accept help. And that can be hard. That's very humbling for sure. We have like a church welfare system where I did go and my husband and I got help. We got like some food and diapers and cleaning supplies a few times. And even though I had spent years donating to this cause, and I have since as well, I felt very guilty asking for help. But we needed it. And it can be very easy to give, but sometimes it's very hard to receive. And it's an important lesson to learn how to receive graciously as well. And I think it's really, it taught me the importance of it being there as a safety net for people. And I was just so grateful for it. We also had a woman in my church who, she was a retired nurse and she cared so much about everyone. I get emotional. She used to make little meals for like 2 people, like small sizes, and freeze them. And she brought us a few of those a number of times, and that just meant so much to us to have healthy meals in the freezer when we needed them, when we didn't have money to go buy other meals or to buy food. So that meant so much to us. And it's been an important lesson for me since that point to always remember that no matter how little I have, someone else probably has less, and I can still donate and help and offer someone else. So we still had expenses we had to pay for. We had phone and internet, we had coin laundry, food, but they were very minimal expenses. We really didn't have a lot of expenses because we didn't go out and do anything, and we kept things as simple and cheap as possible. But I do want to mention one thing about cheap. Sometimes quality is more important than cheap. And when you have very little money or no income coming in, that can be so difficult. We did have a big expense after sleeping on the air mattress till, I don't know, 6-7 months. I was like, I cannot do this anymore. So we did buy a bed. It was the absolute cheapest, like, mattress and box spring we could get. And the funniest thing was it's from the store across the road, but because we didn't have a vehicle, we couldn't get it home. They had to deliver it. But we ended up using that bed for 10 years, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, sometimes you have those big expenses. But one other thing about the quality over necessarily cheap is when I was getting ready to have my son, I needed a bag to keep like diapers and stuff in because I didn't have anything. And I went to Zellers, which was near us at the time, and they had like this baby blue vinyl with teddy bear. I hated it. But it was like $25. It was the cheapest one I could find, that I thought, okay, I'll just get it. And I got it, and I went home, and it's so hard when you have your first child, especially. There's so much pressure to have like the big nursery and to have all these things, and I found it really hard at the time, thinking I just want a few things, just a few things, and I can't even afford those. And after talking with my husband, we said, you know what? This is one thing that we feel like it's okay to go spend some money on. And so I remember returning it, and we went to Toys R Us, and we picked up a diaper bag. It's still, I mean, by today's standards, it was $50 at the most, maybe $45. But that was so much money, and that was such a hard decision, but we bought it. And you know what? I still use that diaper bag today, and it's been 11 years, 12 years. I still use the same diaper bag because it's a good quality one. And it's funny, every time I look at it, it reminds me of that. So I just kind of wanted to mention that, and I'll talk more later on about kind of that quality versus the cost. But I just wanted to mention that. So when we kind of found ourselves in this situation, it was May. Yeah, it was May. In September, my husband's immigration stuff kind of got sorted out. He was able to do his practicum. Our son was born in November. In December, he finished. He graduated with his bachelor's degree. In January, he got his work permit, and then right away, one of the agencies he had been volunteering with offered him a part-time job. And that was amazing because suddenly we had some income again. Still part-time. It still didn't cover our full needs, but it was something. And it came through his volunteering, which was really cool. And then he started to look for work, and his permanent residency came, I can't remember if it was February or March. It came a few months later, and he was looking for full-time work. And eventually he ended up being offered a job in Alberta and one in Saskatchewan. And we kind of had to make a decision what to do, and we ended up deciding on the Alberta one in a small town, northern Alberta. And we moved, and he started the job in May. It was 1 year exactly that we went through this really difficult time of, being pregnant and sick and trying to carry groceries home in the rain, and just not having enough to cover our basic needs, and really worrying and stressing about what we were gonna do. And when we moved, we couldn't find housing in the town my husband was gonna work in, so we were about 45 minutes away in another town. And when the movers arrived, because it was an extra distance, they wanted cash before they would unload our stuff, and we barely had enough in our bank account to pay them. I remember taking the money out and giving it to them and thinking, oh my goodness, like, we have nothing left. That was really hard. It's very scary when you don't have what you need, especially when you have children. So my husband started his job, and a couple weeks later got his first paycheck, and we were like, oh my goodness, this is so much money, which it wasn't, but it was as well. And we were so excited. But at that time, it also started a new phase in our life, because I had student loans I had to pay back still, about $24,000. And because we were living in a rural area and my husband was required to have a vehicle for work, we had bought a vehicle. And there was an issue with how we bought it. That's a long story, but basically, we found ourselves in like $55,000-ish worth of debt. And so I'm gonna kind of stop here, and I'll share the next video how we paid the debt off and some things we did. It took us 6 years to pay the debt off. We added 3 more children to our family during that time. I went back and finished my degree during that time. And it was primarily one income during that time as well. So I'm really excited about the next video to share some of the things we figured out and some of the things we did in order to get rid of that huge amount of debt. That's huge. But when I asked in this kind of video series, asking what questions do you have, one of the questions I got was, what do you do when your budget is so tight that you cannot save anything? There's just no room. And I think part of the answer to that is sometimes there's times in your life where you don't have the wiggle room. We had no income. We were living on what we had. There was no saving going on at that time. But the question then becomes, how long is that going to last for, and how can you change your situation? And it's kind of like the threefold, right? Decrease your expenses, increase your income, change your priorities. And it's that kind of triangle that they all kind of have to shift and move around in order to make it work. So I'm really hoping that as I kind of go forward and share other videos on how we paid off debt, on how we live frugally, how you afford children's activities, how do you afford to homeschool, how do you afford to have kids, that it gives you some inspiration and some tips and ideas. You know, that year was a very, very difficult time in our life. But there was so much joy and blessings that came as well. And as hard as it was to go through that, I'm so grateful that I saw the blessings that I had at that time. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section down below. I'll try and answer them for you. But I do hope that this has been encouraging for someone and helped out a little bit. Hope this finds you having a great day. Take care.